The silence in the grand ballroom of the Silver Moon Pack wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. 300 guests held their breath, their champagne flutes frozen mid-air. Rowan stood center stage, her hand extended, waiting for the ring that was promised to her since childhood. But Liam didn't take her hand. He looked past her, his eyes cold and predatory, landing on the woman standing right behind her, her own sister. When he spoke into the microphone, his voice didn't waver. "I cannot accept a mate who weakens my bloodline. I reject you, Rowan, and I choose Chloe." In that second, Rowan didn't just lose her mate. She lost her family, her dignity, and her future. But she didn't know that the most dangerous man in the continent was watching from the shadows, and he hated wasted potential. The chandeliers inside the Obsidian Pack's gala hall in downtown Seattle were blinding. It was the night of the Winter Solstice, the most important social event of the year for the werewolf elite. For 22-year-old Rowan Hart, this was supposed to be the finish line of a marathon she had been running her entire life. She smoothed the fabric of her emerald green gown, her heart fluttering like a trapped bird against her ribs. Tonight, Liam Vance, the beta of their pack and the son of the head councilman, was going to publicly mark her. They had been high school sweethearts, a match made on paper, and Rowan thought, in the stars. She had spent the last 4 years studying pack law and diplomacy just to be the perfect beta female for him. "You look tense, Ro," a sugary voice whispered in her ear. Rowan turned to see her younger sister, Chloe. Chloe was wearing a dress that was technically white, but shimmered with an iridescent quality that drew every eye in the room. It was tighter, cut lower, and far more expensive than Rowan's. "Just nervous," Rowan admitted, forcing a smile. "It's a big night." "It certainly is," Chloe said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. She took a sip of her drink, leaving a stain of bright red lipstick on the rim. "Are you sure Liam is ready for this? He seemed distracted at dinner last week." "He's just stressed about the border treaties," Rowan defended him instinctively. "Once tonight is over, we can finally breathe." The lights dimmed. The chatter died down as Alpha Sterling took the stage, tapping the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, wolves of the Northwest, tonight we celebrate the future. I hand the stage over to my beta, Liam Vance, for a special announcement." Rowan's breath hitched. This was it. Liam stepped into the spotlight. He was handsome in that rugged, predictable way, sandy hair, broad shoulders, a jawline that looked carved from granite. He looked out into the crowd, his eyes scanning until they found Rowan. He didn't smile. Rowan took a step forward, ready to ascend the stairs as they had rehearsed. "Stop," Liam said. The microphone amplified the harshness of the word. Rowan froze, her foot hovering over the first step. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. "Rowan Hart," Liam said, his voice steady, devoid of the warmth he usually saved for their private moments. "For years our families have assumed that we would lead this pack together. You are diligent. You are smart. You are loyal." He paused, and the silence stretched so thin it felt like it might snap and whip them all. "But a beta needs more than diligence," Liam continued, his gaze hardening. "A beta needs a mate who can provide strong heirs, a mate who embodies the vitality of the wolf. I have consulted with the pack doctors and the elders. Your wolf is dormant. Weak." Rowan felt the blood drain from her face. It was a lie. Her wolf wasn't weak. She was just controlled. Liam knew that. "I cannot tie the future of the Vance bloodline to a genetic dead end," Liam announced, his voice booming now. "Therefore I, Liam Vance, beta of the Obsidian Pack, reject you, Rowan Hart, as my mate." The gasp from the crowd was audible, a collective intake of air that sucked the oxygen out of the room. Rejection was rare. Public rejection was social execution. Rowan stood trembling, her hands shaking at her sides. "Liam," she whispered, too quiet for the mic. "What are you doing?" "I am doing what is best for the pack," Liam said coldly. He then turned his gaze slightly to the right, behind Rowan. A smile finally broke onto his face, a look of hungry adoration. "And I have found a mate who carries the fire this pack needs. I choose Chloe Hart." Rowan spun around. Chloe wasn't shocked. She wasn't horrified. She was beaming. Chloe walked past Rowan, her shoulder checking Rowan hard enough to make her stumble in her heels. She ascended the stairs, taking Liam's hand. Liam immediately pulled her into a deep, possessive kiss, right there in front of the entire assembly, in front of Rowan. The betrayal wasn't just a knife in the back, it was a twisting blade. Her sister, her fiancée. "We are also pleased to announce," Liam said, pulling away from Chloe's lips but keeping his hand on her stomach, "that the next generation is already secure. Chloe is carrying my pup." The room erupted into applause, led by the sycophants, but many people looked uncomfortable. Rowan felt the world tilt. Pregnant? They had been sleeping together behind her back for months. While Rowan was organizing his schedule, while she was helping his mother with charity events, Liam had been in bed with her sister. Rowan stood alone at the base of the stairs, the emerald dress that made her feel beautiful, now feeling like a clown's costume. She looked at her parents in the front row. Her mother was clapping. Her father refused to meet her eyes. They knew. Everyone knew, but her. Rowan didn't scream. She didn't cry. The shock was so absolute, it acted like anesthesia. She turned on her heel, the sound of applause for her sister's pregnancy ringing in her ears like tinnitus. She needed air. She needed to get out of Seattle, out of the pack, maybe out of this life entirely. She pushed through the crowd. People parted for her, not out of respect, but out of the same aversion one has for a diseased animal. She heard the whispers. Sad, really. Always knew she was too frumpy for him. But her own sister? That's ruthless. She reached the heavy double doors of the ballroom and pushed them open, stumbling out into the cool night air of the terrace. It was raining, a typical Seattle drizzle that soaked her skin instantly. She gripped the stone railing, heaving, trying to force air into her lungs. Pathetic. The voice came from the shadows of the large, decorative pillars. It was deep, resonating in her chest like the growl of a predator, too large to be natural. Rowan whipped around, wiping rain and tears from her eyes. Leave me alone. I don't want any pity. Pity? The figure stepped into the dim light of the terrace sconces. I don't offer pity, little wolf. I offer judgment. The man was massive. He stood well over 6'5", wearing a black tuxedo that strained against the muscles of his shoulders. He didn't have the polished boy band look of Liam. This man looked like war. He had a scar running through his left eyebrow, and his eyes were the color of molten gold. Alpha eyes, but older, darker. It was Damon Blackwood, the Alpha King. Rowan's instinct screamed at her to submit, to bare her neck, to kneel. Damon Blackwood ruled the entire Western Territory. He wasn't just a pack alpha. He was the executioner of the council. Rumors said he had killed his own father to take the throne. Rumors said he didn't have a mate because he had killed her too. Alpha King, Rowan managed to choke out, dropping her gaze. I didn't know you were attending. I wasn't invited, Damon said, taking a slow step toward her. The scent of him, wood smoke, rain, and iron, overwhelmed her senses. Liam Vance is a foolish boy who thinks a title makes him a leader. He didn't send an invitation to the crown because he fears me." Damon stopped inches from her. He reached out, his rough fingers tilting her chin up, forcing her to look at him. "Why didn't you tear his throat out?" Rowan blinked, confused. "What?" "He humiliated you. He betrayed you with your own blood," Damon said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "A true wolf would have painted those stairs red. Yet you ran." "I can't beat him," Rowan whispered. "He's a beta. The pack supports him." "The pack follows power," Damon corrected. "And you have more power in your little finger than that boy has in his entire body." Before Rowan could ask what he meant, the ballroom doors banged open. Liam and Chloe spilled out, followed by a small entourage of guards and Rowan's parents. "Rowan!" Liam barked, his face flushed with champagne and arrogance. "Don't think you can just storm off and make a scene. You're ruining Chloe's night." Chloe clung to Liam's arm, smirking. "Let her go, Liam. She's just jealous. It's sad, really. She can't help that she's barren and unwanted." Damon Blackwood turned slowly. He didn't speak. He simply directed his attention from Rowan to the group in the doorway. The effect was instant. Liam's arrogance evaporated. His face went pale. The guards instinctively took a step back, dropping their heads. "Alpha King," Liam stammered, his voice cracking. "We didn't know—" "Silence," Damon said. He didn't yell. He didn't have to. The command rolled over them like a physical weight. Damon looked at Liam with pure disgust. "I watched your display inside, Vance. You rejected a mate of high standing for this?" He gestured vaguely at Chloe. "Chloe is pregnant with my heir," Liam said, trying to regain some ground. "Rowan is weak. She has no wolf." Damon laughed. It was a dark, terrifying sound. "She has no wolf, or is she simply repulsed by you?" Damon turned back to Rowan. He moved with a speed that blurred the eye, grabbing her hand and pulling her flush against his hard chest. The contact sent a shockwave of electricity through Rowan's body so intense her knees buckled. Damon held her up effortlessly. "Listen closely, Liam," Damon said, his eyes flashing bright gold. "You threw away a diamond to pick up a piece of broken glass. By the laws of the rejection you just initiated, Rowan is now a rogue, unclaimed, unprotected." "She is banished," Liam agreed quickly. "She has 24 hours to leave Seattle." "No," Damon rumbled. The air around them began to crackle with energy. "By the ancient laws of the kings, a rejected mate is free to be claimed by any alpha who sees her worth. And I see her worth," Rowan gasped, looking up at Damon. "What are you doing?" Damon ignored her. He stared Liam down, his aura crushing the younger man into submission. "I, Damon Blackwood, Alpha King of the Western Territories, claim Rowan Hart, not as a pack member, not as a servant." He paused, letting the words hang in the rain. "I claim her as my personal ward. She comes with me. Tonight. And if any of you speak a word against her, I will burn this pack to the ground and sow the earth with salt." Chloe let out a screech of indignation. "You can't be serious. Her? She's nothing?" Damon turned his head slightly, his eyes narrowing at Chloe. "Speak again, and you will lose that tongue." He looked down at Rowan, his expression unreadable. "Come, Rowan. Your life in this sewer is over." He didn't wait for her answer. He swept her off her feet, carrying her bridle, style past her stunned ex-fiancé, past her weeping sister, and past the parents who had failed her. Rowan buried her face in his jacket, inhaling his scent, terrified and exhilarated all at once. She had been rejected by a beta, but she had just been collected by the king. The interior of Damon Blackwood's private Maybach was quieter than a tomb. The rain battered the tinted windows as the car tore down the highway, leaving the lights of Seattle behind in a blur of wet asphalt and regret. Rowan sat pressed against the leather door, her arms wrapped around herself, shivering despite the climate-controlled warmth of the vehicle. Damon sat on the opposite bench, a glass of amber whiskey in his hand. He hadn't looked at her since he deposited her into the car. He was typing on a phone that looked too small in his massive hands. "Drink," Damon said, not looking up. He gestured to a crystal decanter of water on the console. "You're in shock. Dehydration will make it worse." Rowan stared at the water. "Where are we going?" "The Obsidian Fortress. My home. In the Cascades." "Why?" Rowan's voice broke. She cleared her throat, trying to find a scrap of the dignity she had lost back at the gala. "Why did you do that? Pity? To spite Liam?" Damon finally looked up. The streetlights outside flashed rhythmically across his face, illuminating the scar on his brow. "I told you, I don't do pity. Liam Vance is a gnat. I don't change my life to spite insects." "Then why?" "Because you smell wrong." Rowan blinked, offended. "Excuse me?" Damon leaned forward, the sudden movement predatory. He placed the whiskey glass down with a sharp clink. "Every wolf has a scent signature. Power, rank, lineage. You smell like an alpha. But underneath that, you smell like sickness, like ash." Rowan shook her head. "Liam said I was dormant. The doctors said my wolf never developed. That's why he rejected me." "The doctors lied," Damon said flatly. "Or they were paid to lie." He reached into the inside pocket of his tuxedo jacket and pulled out a small silver vial. He tossed it onto the seat next to her. "Do you know what that is?" Rowan picked it up. It was heavy, etched with old runes. She unscrewed the cap and sniffed. It smelled like almonds and burnt sugar. "No. It's a concentrate of wolfsbane and silver nitrate mixed with a masking agent," Damon explained, his eyes cold. "It's a suppressant. It doesn't kill the wolf. It puts it in a coma. It cuts the connection between the human soul and the wolf spirit. If taken in small doses over a long period, the subject appears dormant." Rowan felt the car spin, even though they were driving straight. "I don't understand. I've never taken this." "You take vitamins, don't you?" Damon asked. "Every morning? Since you were 16? Rowan's hand flew to her mouth. Her mother. Every morning at breakfast, her mother gave her a supplement to help with her anemia. "My mother gave me those," Rowan whispered, the horror creeping up her throat like bile. "She said they were for my health." "Your mother didn't want a daughter who was stronger than her," Damon said ruthlessly. "And Liam didn't want a wife who was stronger than him. If you had shifted, Rowan, you wouldn't have been a beta. You would have been an alpha female. You would have outranked Liam. You would have outranked your father." Tears streamed down Rowan's face, hot and fast. It wasn't just a rejection. It was a conspiracy. Her entire life, her own family, had been poisoning her to keep her manageable, to keep her small enough to fit into Liam's world. And when she was finally broken enough, Liam discarded her anyway. "Why tell me this?" she wept. "Because anger is a better fuel than despair," Damon said. He moved then, sliding across the seat to sit next to her. He didn't hug her. He grabbed her hand, his thumb tracing the pulse point on her wrist. Sparks, literal, stinging sparks, jumped between their skin. Rowan gasped and tried to pull away, but he held fast. "You feel that?" Damon rumbled, his voice low and gravelly. "Static electricity," she lied, her heart hammering. "That is the bond, Rowan," Damon corrected her. "The reason I claimed you isn't just because I hate wasted potential. It's because the moment you walked onto that terrace, My wolf woke up for the first time in 10 years and demanded I rip the throat out of anyone who touched you. Rowan stared at him, wide-eyed. We are mates, Damon finished. But I didn't announce it back there because you are weak. You are broken. If I announced you as the Queen of the West tonight, my enemies would hunt you down and kill you before sunrise to get to me. You aren't ready to be a queen. He let go of her hand, the loss of contact leaving her cold. So, here is the deal, Rowan Hart. You are my ward. You will live in my house. I will purge that poison from your blood. I will train you. I will wake your wolf. And when you are strong enough to stand on your own 2 feet then, and only then, will I claim you as my mate properly. And if I can't? Rowan asked, her voice trembling. What if I'm just broken? Damon looked out the window as the car began to climb the winding roads of the mountains. The dark silhouette of a massive stone fortress appeared against the moonlit sky. Then you die, Damon said simply, because in my world there is no room for the weak. The Obsidian Fortress was not a home. It was a military compound disguised as a Gothic castle. The stone walls were 3 feet thick, and armed guards patrolled the perimeter with assault rifles and silver-tipped bullets. Rowan had been given a room in the east wing. It was luxurious. Silks, velvets, a fireplace large enough to roast a stag in, but the door locked from the outside. She was a guest, but she was also a prisoner. For 3 days, she saw no one but the silent maid who brought her meals and the doctor Damon had assigned to flush the toxins from her system. The withdrawal was brutal. Rowan spent 48 hours sweating, shaking, and vomiting black bile as the wolfsbane left her tissues. On the morning of the 4th day, the door clicked open. Rowan was sitting by the window, wrapped in a thick robe, watching the sunrise over the snow-capped peaks. She felt hollowed out, physically weak, but her mind felt sharper than it had in years. The brain fog she hadn't realized she had was gone. "Get dressed," a sharp female voice commanded. Rowan turned. Standing in the doorway was a woman who looked like a supermodel assassin. She had platinum blonde hair cut into a sharp bob, ice blue eyes, and was wearing a black leather tactical suit. "I'm Elena," the woman said, looking Rowan up and down with open disdain. "Head of the King's Guard. Damon wants you in the training pit. 5 minutes." "I don't have any clothes for training," Rowan said, standing up on shaky legs. Elena tossed a bundle of fabric at her. It hit Rowan in the chest. "Put this on. Don't keep him waiting. He's in a mood." 10 minutes later, Rowan was standing in the center of a dirt arena in the basement of the fortress. The air smelled of sweat, blood, and sawdust. The training pit was surrounded by a viewing deck where a dozen large men, Damon's elites, watched silently. Damon stood in the center of the ring. He was shirtless, his torso a map of scars and muscle, glistening with sweat. He was wrapping his hands in tape. "You survived the detox," Damon noted, not looking at her. "Good." "I feel like I was run over by a truck," Rowan admitted, hugging her arms. The tactical gear Elena had given her was tight, exposing her curves but offering zero warmth. "You look better than you did," Damon said. He finally looked at her, his golden eyes sweeping over her body with a possessiveness that made her cheeks heat. "The grey is gone from your skin. Now, hit me." Rowan blinked. "What?" "Hit me," Damon repeated. "You want revenge on Liam? You want to stop being a victim? Show me you can fight." "I've never fought in my life," Rowan said, taking a step back. "I was trained in diplomacy, piano, flower arranging." "Diplomacy doesn't stop an alpha from tearing your throat out," Damon growled. He closed the distance between them in a blur of motion. He didn't hit her, but he shoved her hard. Rowan flew back, landing in the dirt with a painful thud. Laughter erupted from the viewing deck. Rowan looked up to see Elena smirking, leaning over the rail. "Get up," Damon commanded. Rowan scrambled to her feet, wiping dirt from her lip. Anger flared in her chest, a hot, unfamiliar sensation. "You said you would train me, not beat me up. This is training. The world wants to eat you, Rowan. I'm just the appetizer." Damon circled her. "Liam rejected you because he thought you were weak. Was he right?" "No," Rowan snapped. "Then hit me," Damon roared. Rowan screamed and lunged. She threw a punch, wild and uncoordinated. Damon caught her fist effortlessly in one hand. He twisted her arm, spinning her around and pinning her against his chest. "Too slow," he whispered in her ear. "Too emotional. You fight like a human." He shoved her away again. For an hour it continued. Rowan attacked, Damon countered. She was covered in bruises, dirt and sweat. Her lungs burned, her muscles screamed, but she wouldn't stop. Every time he knocked her down, she saw Liam's smug face. She saw Chloe's smirk. She saw her mother's fake smile as she handed her the poison vitamins. "Enough," Damon finally said, holding up a hand. Rowan stood swaying in the center of the ring, breathing hard. She hadn't landed a single hit. "Pathetic," Elena called out from the balcony. "She's a waste of your time, Damon. She has no wolf. She's just a broken toy." Something in Rowan snapped. It wasn't a conscious thought. It was a primal surge, a wave of heat that started in her belly and exploded outward. She turned to the balcony, locking eyes with Eleanor. "Silence!" The word didn't sound like Rowan. It came out as a boom, a command layered with a power so dense the air rippled. On the balcony, Elena stumbled back, clutching her chest as if she'd been physically struck. Two of the guards dropped to their knees, their heads bowing instinctively. The silence that followed was absolute. Rowan stood frozen, her hand over her throat. She had used the alpha voice. A beta couldn't do that. Even a normal alpha couldn't compel another alpha's guard like that. That was the voice of a royal. Damon stared at her. For the first time, he looked surprised. Then a slow, dark smile spread across his face. "Well," Damon said, walking over to her. He reached out and wiped a smudge of dirt from her cheek. "It seems the kitten has claws after all." He turned to the stunned audience on the balcony. "The training is over for today. Elena, clean the mats. You look like you need the exercise." Elena's face twisted in fury, but she bowed stiffly. "Yes, Alpha." Damon placed a hand on the small of Rowan's back, guiding her toward the exit. "Come, you've earned a real breakfast." As they walked through the stone corridors, Rowan felt a shift. The guards they passed didn't just look at her with curiosity anymore. They looked at her with fear. "What was that?" Rowan whispered, her voice hoarse. "What did I do?" "You gave a command," Damon said, his tone casual, though his eyes were alert. "And because your blood is potent, they had no choice but to obey." "But I'm not a royal." Damon stopped at the door to his private dining room. He turned to her, his expression serious. "Rowan, there is a lot about your lineage you don't know. Your father is a beta. But your mother?" Her maiden name was Sterling. Rowan frowned. "Like the Alpha of the Obsidian Pack." "Alpha Sterling is her cousin," Damon revealed. "But the Sterling line, it traces back to the old kings of the North. You have royal blood, Rowan. Diluted, perhaps, but it's there. That's why your parents drugged you. If the council found out a royal female was born to a beta house and hidden, they would have executed your entire family for treason." Rowan leaned against the wall, the world spinning again. "They almost killed me to save themselves." "Yes," Damon said. He opened the door for her. "But you are mine now, And I don't hide power, I sharpen it. Inside the dining room, a table was set with enough food for an army. But sitting at the head of the table wasn't an empty chair. A man sat there. He was older, with greying hair and a suit that cost more than Rowan's life. He was sipping tea calmly. Damon stiffened beside her, a low growl rumbling in his chest. "Hello, Damon," the man said smoothly. "I heard you picked up a stray. I came to see if the rumors were true." Damon pushed Rowan behind him. "Councilman Vane, you're a long way from the capital." "I go where the trouble is," Vane said, his eyes shifting to Rowan, peeking out from behind Damon. "And that girl is trouble. Hand her over, Damon. The council has questions about her sudden appearance." "She's under my protection," Damon snarled. "She's a rogue," Vane countered, standing up. "And by law, the council has jurisdiction over rogues who display anomalies. We know about the voice, Damon. We have spies everywhere." Damon stepped forward, his claws lengthening. "If you want her, Vane, you'll have to go through me." Vane smiled, a thin, cruel expression. "I was hoping you'd say that." The air in the private dining room became heavy, saturated with the metallic scent of aggression. Councilman Vane stood his ground, his eyes darting between the Alpha King and the trembling woman behind him. Vane was not a warrior like Damon. He was a politician, a snake who strangled his enemies with red tape and ancient laws rather than claws. "You speak of protection, Damon," Vane said, smoothing his silk tie. "But you know the Sterling Act of 1904. Any unauthorized breeding of royal bloodlines with lower castes is strictly prohibited to prevent unstable offspring. If this girl is indeed a Sterling descendant hidden in a beta family, she is illegal. She is to be euthanized, for the safety of the species." Rowan felt her knees give way. Illegal. Her very existence was a crime. She gripped the back of Damon's shirt, the fabric bunching in her fist. Damon didn't flinch. He took a step toward Vane, his voice dropping to a subsonic rumble that vibrated the silverware on the table. "You are quoting laws written by cowards who feared power they couldn't control. Rowan is not unstable. She is suppressed, and the only crime committed was by her parents and the doctors who poisoned her." "That is for the council to decide," Vane countered, though a bead of sweat traced a path down his temple. "We have received a report from Liam Vance. He claims Rowan Hart attacked his mate, Chloe, with unauthorized psychic force during a training accident. He claims she is a witch-wolf, a genetic abomination." "He lies," Rowan gasped, stepping out from behind Damon. "I didn't touch her. I haven't seen her since the gala." Vane looked at her with cold, reptilian eyes. "He says the attack was remote. Chloe has fallen ill. She is risking a miscarriage. Liam blames your outburst." Damon laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "Liam is trying to cover up the fact that he rejected a queen for a commoner. He knows if Rowan rises, his life is forfeit." "Regardless," Vane said, pulling a folded document from his jacket pocket and placing it on the table. "This is a summons. Rowan Hart is to appear before the High Council in 3 days at the neutral grounds in Seattle. She will be tested. If she is found to be unstable, she will be executed. If she is found to be royal, she will be handed over to the council for re-education." "And if I refuse?" Damon asked, his claws fully extended now, gouging deep grooves into the mahogany table. "Then the Obsidian Pack, and you personally, will be declared enemies of the state," Vane said softly. "You have an army, Damon, but you cannot fight the entire continent. Do you want to lose your crown for one broken girl?" The room fell silent. Rowan looked at Damon's back. He had everything to lose. He was the king. She was just a mistake he had picked up in the rain. Damon," she whispered. "Don't, just let them take me." Damon turned slowly. He ignored Vane completely. He reached out and cupped Rowan's face, his thumbs brushing away the fresh tears. "I told you," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "I don't do pity, and I don't give up what is mine." He turned back to Vane, his eyes blazing with golden fire. "We will attend your hearing, Vane, but know this. I am not bringing her to be judged. I am bringing her to be crowned, and if Liam Vance or anyone on your council tries to harm her, I will not just start a war. I will finish it." Vane's smile faltered. He nodded once, stiffly. 3 days, Alpha, King. Bring your best lawyers, or your best soldiers." Vane turned and left, his guards flanking him. As the door clicked shut, the tension in the room snapped. Damon grabbed a heavy crystal vase from the sideboard and hurled it against the wall, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. "Damn it!" he roared. Rowan flinched. "Damon!" He spun around, his chest heaving. "They are trying to trap us. Liam knows he messed up. If you are proven to be a royal, his rejection is invalid by law because a lower rank cannot reject a royal without consent. He's trying to kill you before the truth comes out so he can keep his position and his pregnant mistress." "What do we do?" Rowan asked, feeling a steely resolve hardening in her chest. The fear was fading, replaced by the same cold anger Damon had spoken of. "We stop hiding," Damon said, walking over to her. "We have 3 days. The poison is out of your system. Now, we have to wake the wolf. Fully." "How?" "We go to the Bleeding Moon Falls," Damon said darkly. "It's where the ancient kings went to force their first shift. It's dangerous, it's painful, but it's the only way to unlock your power before the trial." The journey to Bleeding Moon Falls took them deep into the untouched wilderness of the Cascades. There were no cars here, no roads. They hiked for 6 hours through dense pine forests and snowdrifts. Rowan's body was exhausted, but she kept pace. The training, brief as it was, and the removal of the wolfsbane had given her a stamina she had never known. Her senses were dialing up to 11. She could hear the heartbeat of a squirrel in a tree 50 yards away. She could smell the ozone of a storm brewing miles out at sea. They reached the falls at twilight. The water cascaded down a 100-foot cliff into a pool that glowed a deep, unsettling crimson due to the iron-rich red rocks at the bottom. The mist was freezing. "Strip," Damon ordered. He was already pulling off his tactical gear. Rowan didn't argue. Modesty felt irrelevant here. This was primal. She removed her clothes, the cold air biting her skin. But inside, she felt like she was burning up. A fever was raging in her blood. "The water is freezing," Damon warned, standing before her, naked and magnificent in the moonlight. The shock forces the body into survival mode. It breaks the final barriers the poison built. "I'm ready," Rowan said, though her teeth chattered. Damon took her hand. "I will be with you. I won't let you drown." They stepped into the pool. The cold was agonizing. It felt like 1,000 knives stabbing her skin. Rowan gasped, her lungs seizing. "Breathe," Damon commanded, pulling her deeper until the water reached her chest. "Focus on the heat inside. Find the wolf. Call her." Rowan closed her eyes. She searched the darkness of her mind. Usually there was nothing there, just silence. But now she felt something. A presence. Large. Angry. Sleeping. "Wake up," she thought. "They want to kill us. Wake up!" Pain exploded in her spine. Rowan screamed, thrashing in the water. It felt like her bones were being pulverized with a sledgehammer. "It's starting," Damon roared. "Let it happen, Rowan. Don't fight the pain." She fell under the water, the red liquid filling her vision. Her body contorted. Her jaw cracked and reshaped. her fingers elongated, claws tearing through the skin. It was agony beyond comprehension. She was dying. She was being born. "Let us out!" The voice in her head was like a thunderclap. Rowan burst from the water, but she wasn't a woman anymore. She landed on the rocky bank on all fours, shaking, heaving. She looked down at her paws. They were massive. The fur was not the usual brown or grey of a common wolf. It was pure, blinding silver, shimmering like moonlight caught in physical form. She was huge, nearly the size of an alpha. A deep growl answered her. Damon had shifted. His wolf was a gigantic, midnight black beast with eyes of burning gold. He towered over her, but he didn't posture to dominate. He lowered his massive head and nudged her neck affectionately. "You are beautiful," his voice echoed in her mind. It wasn't spoken. It was the telepathic mind link of mates. "Damon?" Rowan's internal voice was tentative, new. "Run with me," he challenged. They took off. For the first time in her life, Rowan felt free. She wasn't the rejected beta girl. She wasn't the disappointment. She was a lethal silver streak cutting through the forest. She jumped over fallen logs effortlessly, her paws eating up the miles. They ran until the moon was high in the sky. They wrestled in a clearing, the play rough and nipping. Damon's wolf pinned her, his weight heavy and comforting, and licked the water from her silver fur. The bond between them snapped into place like a steel cable, indestructible. She could feel his emotions, his pride, his rage at what had been done to her, and his overwhelming desire for her. They shifted back at dawn, collapsing onto the mossy floor of the forest, chests heaving, skin touching skin. Damon wrapped his arms around her, pulling her against him to share body warmth. "You are a silver wolf," he murmured into her hair. "The rarest of the royal lines, the symbol of judgment." Rowan looked at her hands, which were human again but felt stronger. I heard her. "My wolf. She wants blood." "She'll get it," Damon promised. They hiked back to the fortress in silence, a new unity between them. But the peace was shattered the moment they entered the command center. Elena was waiting for them, her face pale. She held a tablet. "Alpha," Elena said, avoiding Rowan's gaze. "We have a problem. A video was leaked to the internet an hour ago." Damon snatched the tablet. Rowan looked over his shoulder. It was a video of Chloe, lying in a hospital bed, looking frail and pale, and expertly made up to look tragic. Liam was holding her hand, looking devastated. "My sister," Chloe sobbed into the camera. "She has always been jealous, but I never thought she would use dark magic to hurt my baby. She cursed me. The doctors say the baby's heartbeat is fading. Rowan, if you're watching this, please lift the curse. I forgive you. Just save my baby." The video had 3 million views. The comments were a torrent of hatred. "Kill the witch! Monster! Burn her!" Rowan stared at the screen, horror washing us over her. "She's lying. It's a performance. She's weaponizing the public." Damon smashed the tablet over his knee. "It's a play for the jury. They want the council to fear public riots if they don't execute you." He turned to Elena. "Get the car. We aren't waiting 3 days. We are going to Seattle now. If they want a show, we'll give them one." "Damon," Rowan said, her voice steady, the silver wolf in her eyes flashing. "Liam and Chloe built a stage to destroy me. I think it's time I walked onto it." Damon grinned, a floral, terrifying expression. Long live the Queen. The Hall of Justice in downtown Seattle was a coliseum of glass and steel, designed to intimidate. By the time Damon's motorcade arrived, the streets were choked with thousands of shifters and curious humans holding signs. The video of Chloe had done its job. The mob was baying for blood. They chanted, "Witch!" and threw stones at the reinforced windows of the SUV. Inside the car, Rowan sat in silence. She wore a dress Damon had commissioned for her, midnight blue silk that left her back bare, exposing the faint silver scars of her transformation. She didn't look like a defendant. She looked like a weapon sheathed in velvet. "They want a monster," Damon said, watching the crowd through the dark glass. "Don't give them one. Give them a queen." "I'm not afraid," Rowan said. And it was true. The fear had burned away in the freezing waters of the falls. All that was left was cold, hard clarity. They exited the vehicle. The roar of the crowd was deafening, but Damon's personal guard formed a phalanx around them, pushing through to the heavy bronze doors. Inside, the great hall was packed. The High Council sat on a raised dais, 12 ancient wolves in red robes, with Councilman Vane at the center, holding the gavel like a war hammer. To the left, Liam and Chloe sat. Chloe was in a wheelchair, looking frail, clutching a handkerchief to her eyes. Liam stood protectively beside her, wearing his beta uniform, looking every inch the grieving father. "Order!" Vane bellowed, banging the gavel. The murmuring crowd silenced. "We are here to judge the case of the Council versus Rowan Hart. The charges are high treason, use of forbidden dark arts, and the attempted murder of an unborn heir." Vane looked down at Rowan, who stood alone in the center of the floor, Damon having taken his place, not in the audience, but standing ominously behind the defense table, his arms crossed. "How do you plead?" Vane sneered. Rowan looked up. Her eyes were currently brown, masking the silver beneath. "I plead truth." "There is no such plea," Vane snapped. "Liam Vance, present your evidence." Liam stepped forward. He looked tired, his eyes rimmed with red. He played the part perfectly. "Council members, I loved Rowan. I truly did. But when I found my true mate in her sister, Rowan snapped. She couldn't accept that she was a dormant wolf. She cursed us. Chloe has been bleeding for 2 days. The doctors say the baby is fading because of a necrotic energy attached to Chloe's womb. An energy that bears Rowan's signature." He pointed a shaking finger at Rowan. "She is a witch. She has no wolf, so she turned to darkness to steal power." The crowd gasped. Murmurs of abomination rippled through the room. "Dr. Aris," Vane called out, "please take the stand." A short, sweating man in a white coat hurried to the podium. Rowan recognized him. He was the pack doctor who had prescribed her vitamins for years. "It is true," Dr. Aris stammered, avoiding Rowan's gaze. "I have treated Rowan since she was a child. She has always been jealous, unstable. Her biology is twisted. The energy attacking Chloe is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's lethal." "Enough," Vane said, looking satisfied. "The evidence is clear. A dormant wolf cannot produce this power without dark magic. Under the pure blood laws, the sentence is death by beheading, immediate execution." Vane raised his hand to signal the guards. "I object." Damon's voice cut through the room like a whip. He didn't shout, but the power in his tone made the council members flinch. "You are judging a wolf you have not let shift. You claim she is dormant. Prove it." "She has never shifted in 22 years, Liam shouted. "Why waste time?" "Because," Rowan spoke up, her voice clear and bell-like, "you never let me." She stepped forward, directly toward Liam. The guards moved to stop her, but Damon growled, a low subsonic vibration that froze them in place. "You say I am dormant," Rowan said to the room. "You say I am a witch. You say I am weak." She stopped 10 feet from the dais. She closed her eyes. She didn't need water or pain this time. She just needed the truth. She pulled on the silver thread in her soul. "Show them," she commanded her wolf. The air in the room dropped 20 degrees instantly. Frost began to creep across the marble floor, radiating out from Rowan's feet. The lights flickered and blew out, plunging the hall into darkness, save for the moonlight streaming from the high windows. And then Rowan began to glow. It wasn't magic. It was bioluminescence, a trait of the ancient royals. Her skin shone with a pale, ethereal light. Her bones cracked, reshaping with a wet, terrifying sound that echoed in the silent hall. In seconds, the woman was gone. In her place stood a wolf of impossible size. Her fur was pure, shimmering silver, bright enough to illuminate the faces of the terrified council. She was larger than Liam, larger than Vane. A collective scream got caught in the throats of the audience. "A silver wolf," an elder council member whispered, standing up in shock. "The judgment of the North. They were supposed to be extinct." Rowan, the silver wolf, turned her massive head toward the council. She didn't growl. She spoke, not with a human mouth, but through the mind link, a telepathic broadcast that every wolf in the room heard simultaneously. "I am Rowan of House Sterling. I am not dormant. I was poisoned." She turned her glowing silver eyes toward Dr. Aris. The doctor fell to his knees, sobbing. "Confess." The command hit Dr. Aris with the force of a physical blow. "I did it!" he shrieked, clawing at his throat. "Her parents paid me. Liam paid me. They wanted to suppress her so the council wouldn't find out she was royal. They made me give her the wolfsbane." Pandemonium erupted. The crowd turned on Liam, their boos turning to snarls. Liam stumbled back, his face ashen. "No, he's lying. It's mind control." Rowan shifted back. It was fluid, instantaneous. She stood naked, covered only by the long cloak Damon threw over her shoulders, looking like a vengeful goddess. "And now for the second lie," Rowan said, walking toward Chloe. Chloe shrank back in her wheelchair. "Stay away from me. You'll kill my baby." "There is no baby," Rowan said calmly. "You lie," Liam roared, stepping between them. "I heard the heartbeat." "You heard a recording," Rowan said. She looked at Vane. "Councilman, bring a healer, a real one, not on anyone's payroll. Scan her now." Vane, realizing the tide had turned and his own neck was on the line, gestured frantically. "Healer Kara! Check her!" A woman from the neutral faction rushed forward with a handheld ultrasound scanner. Chloe screamed and tried to fight, but the guards held her down. The healer ran the scanner over Chloe's stomach. The image appeared on the massive screens above the dais. Empty. "There is no fetus," the healer announced, her voice shaking. "And there never was. Her womb lining is shedding. She is on her cycle right now." The silence in the hall was absolute. Then it broke. Liam turned slowly to look at Chloe. The betrayal on his face was absolute. He had thrown away his true mate, his honor, and his future for a lie. "You said you were pregnant. You showed me the test." "I bought it online!" Chloe screamed, her mask finally slipping, revealing the ugly jealousy underneath. "I had to. You were going to leave me. You were always looking at her. Even when we were in bed, you whispered her name. I hate her. I wanted her to die." Liam fell to his knees, broken. He looked up at Rowan, tears streaming down his face. "Rowan, Ro, I didn't know. Please, I was tricked. We can fix this. We are mates." Rowan looked down at him. She felt nothing. No love, no hate, just indifference. "We were never mates, Liam," she said softly. "You chose a lie, and I choose my king." She turned to Damon. Damon stepped forward. He didn't look at Liam. He looked at the council. Liam Vance publicly rejected a royal. Under the ancient laws, that is treason. Chloe Hart conspired to assassinate a royal. That is treason. Councilman Vane conspired to cover it up. Damon drew a long, silver sword from inside his coat. "I demand justice." "Granted," The High Elder shouted, terrified of the Silver Wolf. "We strip Liam Vance of his rank. We sentence them to the darkest cells." "No," Damon said. He looked at Rowan. "My queen?" Rowan looked at her sister, sobbing on the floor, and her ex-fiancé, a broken shell of a man. "Death is too easy," Rowan said. "Let them live. Strip them of their wolves. Banish them to the human world. Let them live as nobodies, watching me rule from the shadows. That is their punishment." Damon smiled, a wicked, proud thing. "As you wish." He turned to the crowd, raising Rowan's hand high. "Behold!" Damon roared, his voice shaking the glass walls. "Rowan of House Sterling, the Silver Wolf, the Queen of the West." The crowd didn't just clap, they knelt. One by one, then in waves, 3,000 wolves bowed their heads to the floor. Rowan looked out at the sea of bowed heads, then up at Damon, the man who had found her in the rain when she was nothing. He squeezed her hand, the spark between them brighter than the camera flashes exploding around them. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Rowan smiled, her eyes flashing silver one last time. "I am home." And that is the incredible story of Rowan and the Alpha King, from being rejected in a ballroom and poisoned by her own parents, to awakening the legendary Silver Wolf and taking her rightful place on the throne. It's a reminder that sometimes the worst rejection is just a redirection to a better destiny. Liam chased a fake diamond and lost the real treasure, and he'll have to live with that regret forever. What do you think? Was Rowan's punishment for Liam and Chloe too lenient, or was letting them live as humans the ultimate revenge? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And subscribe with notifications on so you never miss the next dramatic werewolf saga. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.